Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and welcome to the weekend preview, and it is an exciting time to be involved with SuperCoach at the moment. Plenty of movement in the prices at the moment, plenty of stars dropping and plenty of our cash cows making us some real coin. So that all means that we can really advance our sides and really start to evolve our teams into not so much guns and rookies, but those guns really starting to outweigh the amount of rookies we have to field. So it's exciting times for sure, and I'll just start with the ins and outs. Obviously, Paddy Cripps comes back in. Tom Ruggles returns for the Cats. Elliot Yeo in for the Eagles. Craig Bird, not as relevant as he once was, but he's in. Mason Redman, a young bomber, will make his debut. Want to keep an eye on potentially. And Brad Crouch returns as well, which is great if we've been patient with him, which I have been. Lockie Hunter and Tom Liberatore have been named, which is good. So that's always nice to see. Outs, Jacob Whedon, of course. Darcy Parish has been rested. Sam Grimley is out. And good old Ross Lyon has kicked off the youth once again. Darcy Tucker and Brad Gray have been omitted. And of course, Rory Laird is out as well. Ryan Davis, another. I will make note that I'm doing this on a Thursday, so Jade Gresham, Sam Gray and Darcy Byrne-Jones have been named on extended benches. And I would expect the first two to be named, most likely. I guess Gresham, you never quite know. But Darcy Byrne-Jones has been good. But just looking at that extended bench, I just have my concerns. But surely he'll be named. And look, there's some interesting ins and outs. There was a lot being talked about of Pendlebury being sore. Kerridge had soreness as well. Do yourselves a favour and don't bloody listen to all that crap that they come out with. You know, I left training early, he's sore. Players are sore every week, especially the guns, you know. Players don't always train every day during the week and do all the sessions. Save yourself the stress of worrying about stuff that's not going to happen and wait for the teams. If they're out, they're out. If they're not, don't worry about it. I see a lot of posts about, you know, he's sore, he's this and that. Montagna was on light duties a couple of weeks ago. He played. So just do yourself a favour and don't worry about it. But that's enough of a rant from Shorty. I had many questions about what do I do with Wiedering. And of course, Rory Laird is another one. He's fractured the toe. So I'll deal with those two guys first. And I'll start with the easiest one. That's Rory Laird. Hold him. Simple stuff. He's out for 2 to 3. But he's proven to be a great player for us so far. Scoring great numbers as a defender. I think he's gone on all his full matches 90 plus. So I can't remember what he scored last week. I think in the 70s possibly, but he went off early. So definitely hold on to him. He's out for 2 to 3, but just be patient and he'll be well worth waiting for. Jacob Wiedering is the main one, of course. 338,000. He's in 55% of sides. He scored 23 last week after coming off early with a concussion and the shoulder injury that has ruled him out for at least 2 weeks. And he dropped 25k. That's disappointing. I know it's only a little bit, but these things sort of start to build up when you just throwing away 20 to 30k each week sort of thing. So that hurts. But what do you do with him? Obviously, you get rid of him. That's a no-brainer. A, because he's out for at least 2 weeks. B, his break-even's going to be high because of that 23. And, obviously, if you've got Laird, Rance is out as well. And if you're throwing Wiedering there, you almost have no choice but to trade him. But I think that's the obvious move to do. Do you upgrade or downgrade him, I hear you say? You upgrade him, I believe. Mainly because there's little options on the downgrade side of things. I'll get to that in a sec. Who do you upgrade to? There's only one man there as well. It's Heath Shaw. Get him in. He's dominating. He's a break-even of 55 and he's priced at 562. Unbelievable to have that lower break-even at that price. He's just dominating. Slightly went up after his 143 last week, but he's set to skyrocket. So I just think if you don't have Heath Shaw, you just get him in. It's as simple as that. Work the money, find it, deliver it, get the job done, and get him in the side. But if you do have him, then probably someone like Matty Boyd's a good option. Cade Simpson's another good option. Or be a little bit patient if you don't have to make that trade right now and there's more pressing issues, which I'll touch on soon as well. Then you might look to hold him for a week and let Hooley drop again, let McVeigh drop again, or you might like the idea of Daniel Rich. He's nicely priced as well. So there's a few options to have a look at there, but definitely offload Wiedering. He's been great for us. It's a pity that it ended with a shoulder injury and a low score, but he has been a good servant for us. So definitely look to upgrade him there. but for whatever reason you don't want to upgrade him, or you can't make the money to get to someone you want, and you want to downgrade or get some cash off him, then look, your hands are a bit tied. Hugh Goddard came in the 7, I think, for the Saints, and he may have even got named, I can't remember, but that basically means Tom Lee, who was dropped and in that same sort of position, he's on the outer at the moment. So that's not good to see from his point of view. He was obviously on the bubble as well. Caden Brand was named for the Hawks, but you couldn't think his job security is great. There's no one really down there. Even Aaliyah was dropped as well. Tommy Ruggles has had one price rise, but you wouldn't bank on him for being a good scorer. I wouldn't be going that option. So look, if you want to downgrade and you say, Shorty, there's no one on the bubble, there's no one obvious, I need to trade down, who do you think will get games later in the year? Well, I've had a bit of a look, and it is slim pickings, I must say. But I will throw one name at you, and it's Tom Cole of the Eagles. I really like him. He's done some good stuff in the waffle. He's been there and abouts the last couple of weeks in selection. Again, he's emergency. That's at least back-to-back weeks. And again, he may get a game on the weekend because Darling and Jeremy McGovern are under some injury clouds, so he might even play. But I think Tom Cole, if you just want to take that risk, which I don't necessarily endorse on a bloke that is a while away from even playing, let alone making money, but if you have to, he is who I would go with. Now, the absolute guy you must have, I've dealt with what you got to get rid of, keep Laird, get rid of Wiedering, but the must-have of the round. He may have the most common name in Australia, but he should also be the most common trade in SuperCoach this week, and that's Josh Smith. You go, who the hell is Josh Smith? I've never seen him in my life. He plays for Collingwood. He's sort of your half-back flank sort of style player. Had a pretty nervous start, I must say. Had some poor moments after debuting on Anzac Day, I believe. But he's held his spot, and last week was supremely impressive. He had 29 touches, scored 96, and look, you can find him in the midfield. He's at 102,000 with a break-even of negative 107. Now that's extremely impressive, and we just got to get our hands on him. He's a non-negotiable. You must get him in your side. And I suppose probably our backline rookies and forwards have perhaps been making more dosh than, say, the midfield crop. I mean, of course, you've got Kerridge and Mills, etc., but our blokes on the bench, like Davis, Hewitt, you might have Petrarca there, Menenju, they're not exactly just bulking with cash, but you got to do it. Myself, Ryan Davis has been dropped. That'll be the move. And I know it only makes me 80-odd thousand, but you just got to get him in because these sort of rookies on the bubble are just gold. He's locked into that side. He's a playmaker. He uses the ball fairly well. He finds it, has that happy knack of finding the ball. Scored 72 and 96. And look, he looks really assured at the level. I know he had some nervy moments early, and he did slip over last week, but you can't help that sometimes. He looked pretty assured for the most part, and I think he'll be given a serious chance at the Pies to really cement that spot. And he's probably gone a fair way to cementing it already. And at this midway through the season start, we're 6-7 rounds in, it's just gold to get a bloke on the bubble when our other guys are starting to peak and you can just trade down and repeat the process. That's absolute gold. So you just have to get him in. It's as simple as that. He's just too juicy to pass up. Now, some other guys on the bubble, Mason Cox and Daniel Curry, a couple of guys there in the ruck duo. Don't worry about that. If you got Cox, all well and good. If you don't have anyone on that ruck bench or even the forward line option, don't stress. There'll be other options. Darcy McPherson was named as well to debut for the Gold Coast Suns, and you would expect he'd be given a reasonable run of it due to their injuries and plus their poor form. You'd think they'd give the young fella a reasonable crack at it. So, plus he had some good games pre-season. But that's pretty much my take-home message, is get in Josh Smith. If you don't have Heath Shaw, get him in, trade out Wiedering, hold Laird, all good. So I think they're the main things. If you're lucky enough to not have the worry of a Wiedering or something like that, look to really generate some cash and bank some cash, because in the coming weeks we've got the likes of Tom Rockcliffe dropping off, Matty Priddis is coming down, Robbie Gray is coming down, Joey Montagna as well. I mean, you might be saying, oh, Shorty, you haven't mentioned Tom Rockcliffe, why don't we get him in? I'm not as convinced on Tom Rockcliffe. I think get him, but he's not. As I look at this week, I think if you don't have Shaw, must have. If you don't have Josh Smith, must have. So I don't look at Rockcliffe and go, yeah, you got to get him this week. His break even of 84, he'll probably break that, no doubt, and he might score, 100, 110. He'll go up a little bit, but I still think, blokes like Mills, Kerridge, they've still got cash to make. So, while Rocky probably has bottomed out now and may make some cash this weekend, inevitably in the big picture you win. You actually make money, because Mills and Kerridge will make more money than Rockcliffe unless he comes out and scores 150. But playing it safe in the percentages, it's all well and good. If you got the luxury to get in Rockcliffe, of course, bank the points, do it. But I think if you can get in some cash to then upgrade in the coming weeks, perhaps a double upgrade down the track, I think that's really important. And I will just finally touch on, before I get to the captaincy, I think it's also worth noting that some of our cash cows have really started to beef up now. I'll read out some numbers to you as well. Their break-evens and the players, of course. Marcus Adams, 58. Anthony McDonald tipping Woody, break-even of 64. Matty D, break-even of 95. Ryan Davis, of course, he's dropped, but his break-even is 40. Struggling there. Ben Kennedy, 51. And Mitch McGovern, what have we got there? 35. So, a few guys who have done their job nicely. It's time to offload a few of those. Absolutely, if you've got D, he's already had a price drop. You got to get rid of him, no doubt. I think McDonald tipping Woody has probably peaked. I'll be getting rid of him this week. I think if you're looking out of Adams and McDonald tipping Woody, of course, Adams has a lower break even. Bear in mind, he's got an Adelaide forward line to deal with. That'll be tricky. But I think you'd be dropping the bomber there before Adams. And another thing to consider, while you look at these break-evens, don't just say to yourself, oh, yeah, he'll make that sort of thing. Yeah, break-even of 40, he'll get that. It's not so much whether he'll get it. It's can he break it significantly? I mean, these guys aren't here to just hit their break-even and just pass it and make us 5k. We need price jumps of at least 15, 20, 30k if we can. I mean, at those sort of price ranges, you take another 20,000 for sure. But really think about that. I mean, Ben Kennedy's a good example. 51, he got his break-even last week, but he only went up 8,000, and he might score 60 this week. He might score 70 again. He goes up 10, 12,000. That's nice, but I think your money could be better spent, and there could be more value in getting, obviously, a Josh Smith or someone like that. Now, before I close out, some captaincy options. I think the obvious one, of course, would probably be Dangerfield into Parker, providing you had another loophole later in the day on that Saturday. If you've got a lot of people playing and you don't have that luxury, and you got Cox on the bench or something like that, and you need to have something on the Friday, I think Dustin Martin, Sam Mitchell, Joshy Gibson would be worth the risk on the Friday, see what they can produce. And then obviously I think Dangerfield, Parker, they're your mainstays. So the obvious ones, they've been dominating, so really look at them. Hanbury as well has been fantastic, and probably the best point of difference premium in the league at the moment, just dominating. And don't discount Ablett. I watched him last week. He's copped a lot of flack in the media. He was pretty good last week, especially his first half when the game mattered. I looked at him in the second half and he disputed, but he didn't care. He really didn't. He looked like a bloke who couldn't believe where this club had got to after some of the stages they went to. But he was good in the first half. I think he had 15, was playing well, and he, like everyone, dropped off big time in that second half. But I think a bit too much is being made out of Gaz being in bad form. He's in bad form considering he's the best player to ever play the game. I mean, that's a big call in itself. That's worth a video. But of the modern era, of course, he's in poor form in consideration on Ablett standards, but he's still playing decent footy, and it would not surprise me if we saw a big score from him to answer his critics this week, and I hope he does. So that's enough of me talking. There was a fair bit to get through there. Sorry for a bit of a lengthy video. Sometimes things got to be talked about, and I had to cover off some things. I think I've covered it pretty well there. A fair bit to talk about, a fair bit to discuss. Give me your questions as always. I'll be pretty open to answering them tonight, and for a fair chunk of tomorrow as well. Should be right. Over the weekend I've got work and a couple other things covering local footy and stuff, so a bit busier there, but chuck me your questions over the next 24 hours for sure. Like the video, comment of course, and main thing is always subscribe to the channel. It's always good to get another subscription as I stumble through that sentence, but definitely get on board because there's plenty of SuperCoach content coming your way in 2016.